and she joins me now. Hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hey, I'm great.
Nice to talk to you. Where are you?
I'm in Canada where I belong. Thank God. I'm in British Columbia, and so feel lucky to be here.
I bet. So were you in Canada at the beginning of the pandemic?
I was in LA for 16 and a half years and moved back. And yeah, so it's good to be here.
And who are you like? Do you have a nice crowd with you? Are you finding enough activities? Do you have things to do?
Well, yes, I'm quarantining with my sister's family. So we have 6 kids, 3 dogs, and a cat between us. So that has been an adventure. The homeschooling of children between the ages of 4 and 16 has been definitely an adventure. We're trying to find some things where, like, we can homeschool everybody with one topic. So we're having like grandparents and aunts and uncles kind of portal in on FaceTime and give lessons. Like my uncle did one on the powers of government in a time of crisis. My sister did one on the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. And I did one equally important, I would like to think, on cartoon voices.
Yeah, no, definitely important. You got to. I always
I think
say
so.
you got to know your rights as a citizen. You have to understand the global community, and you got to know how to do a cartoon voice. That's what they always tell you.
They always like, oh, and the other one I contributed was pratfalls. So how to just try and like fall without hurting yourself. If you had to like fall in Scrubs, we had to do a lot of pratfalls, and so the kids were curious about those. So we just piled up like a stack of books, and we're trying to explain how to, like, you approach the books, you know where they are, you turn around just as you're, and then you. And my 3-year-old was just went for it.
Give me a tip.
Just went for
I'm
it.
not letting you go. Then I want a pratfall tip.
Pratfall tip. I mean, the I sometimes hurt myself, but not often. So the best tip, I think, is like to make it look real and to sell it is to turn away just before it happens. So you don't. It looks like you don't see it coming, even though you
Mhm.
just approached it, and then you look away, but you know you're about to go.
I want to say that I sometimes hurt myself, but not often is my favorite Nine Inch Nails song. So thanks for that. That's really great. um, you're still able to work, right? Because you're on Rick and Morty. It's an animated show. Are you still able to do voices?
Yes, I've been recording 3 cartoons up here, and it's been such an interesting adventure to find like the most acoustically positive sound. And really, that's like a dead sound. So you have to find somewhere small. And so I started out in the lower bunk bed, surrounded by every duvet and pillow that was available to me. And then tried taking the kids' play tent and duct taping 7 moving blankets around it. And then you're in this kind of like dark space, and then I make a stack with like a thing of poker chips and Harry Potter books, and then bounce the microphone on top and hope for the best.
Can I also say that like Beth on Rick and Morty is not like a, a super kid friendly cartoon character? Like,
No,
are you worried about your kids
no.
hearing what's going on with mom in the room?
Totally. Like, often you're recording off campus in a sound contained sound booth. um so yeah, that's also been part of this, figuring out a way to not only keep the dogs from barking and hearing birds, but also the children not hearing you. So it's an interesting um dynamic. They get to have some really loud screen time. Yeah.
they get they get to watch their iPad as loud as they want, so that mom can say rated R things into a microphone in the bunk bed.
Totally. I mean, I was already worried about like my daughter, who's 3, going to preschool, and like she loves. We have all the Rick and Morty like stuffed animals and plushies, and so she'll play with them. She'll be like, "Oh, Mr. Poopy Butthole." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know how that's going to go over playing that with the other children."
It's been really amazing to see how big Rick and Morty has become. Like I remember when it was sort of like this little niche animated show for nerds and for people who like really kind of sophisticated comedy, and then it just becomes this worldwide phenomenon. And it made me think about your character Beth. So for people who haven't seen the show, can you tell me who Beth was when you started and sort of who she's become as the series has gone on?
Yeah, so she's the sort of mother of the family. Rick and Morty is the grandfather and the grandson, and you think you're going to watch this grandfather grandson go on these like wild sci-fi adventures, but what it ends up going into is like these real kind of rough family dynamics and kind of not just this sci-fi cartoon, but asking these existential questions like, if life is meaningless and there are infinite universes, does anything really matter? So that's Rick and Morty in general. And then for Beth, starting out kind of as the matriarch of the family and playing the mom, and then over time and as the seasons went on, you find out how much she is like her dad, and the fact that when she was little, he had to build her a secret world because she was, making whips to make people like her and mind control hair clips as a young girl. So you find out that she is kind of a lot like her dad, and then as the seasons go on, um, she wants to either stay or leave, and we don't know if she's a clone or not a clone, and that's been super fun to play, kind of Beth, and then this alternate Beth as well, space Beth.
It's fun, hey. Like it must be a challenge to sort of play your character, and also a sort of more sinister or like deceptive version of your character, but it's all their same voice. Like you're not changing too much, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's been super fun, and obviously we didn't know at any point that that was coming. Like we just get the scripts as we get them. We have no knowledge of what's happening down the road in the future. So that part's so fun. I mean, to see like a Rick and Morty script in my inbox is one of my favorite things, because the minds of Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon are unbelievable. The scripts are so smart and so funny and so wild. I love them.
It's the number 2 show in all of North America. Like we were looking at in the US anyway, we were looking at this survey that was
Wow.
conducted in the US to see what TV shows were being binged the most during the pandemic. So number 1, Friends. Friends is number 1, right?
Yes, I love it. I'm a big Friends fan.
And then sort of like the anti-Friends, Rick and Morty is
I
is no,
didn't know that. That was too
is
awesome.
number 2. In some states, Rick and Morty is number 1. What do you make of it? What do you make of it that during the pandemic it's gotten even more successful?
That's really cool. I didn't know that. I think people want to laugh and people want to escape into another world, and I think that it's a time for a real need for comedy, and the growth of it has been interesting to watch kind of through the eyes of Comic-Con over the years. Like we would go to Comic-Con year one, it hadn't been released yet. So all the questions were to Dan Harmon about Community. And then the next year there was like a couple Ricks walking around. And then the next year it was like a sea of Mr. Poopy Buttholes and Ricks and all these different characters. So it's kind of cool to get to see um, how it's grown, but I'm glad it's bringing people laughs
Is
during
it
this time.
is it ever a bit intense? Like I know that even Dan and Justin, the folks behind the show, have had to come out and talk to the fans of the show because they can be intense. They can be a bit toxic. They can be a bit sort of awful. Now we're talking about a pretty small group of fans of the show, but I can't imagine what that's like to be sort of in it, to be in the show when all that's going on.
Yeah, it is wild, the degree to which fans watch all the little pieces, and I think that I don't actually read a ton of those sites and comments, but I think it's cool how passionate people are about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you hope to be in something that means that much to people, but it comes with
Yeah,
it comes with pros and cons. Yeah, I understand what you mean, right?
yeah,
But it's I mean
totally.
it's become this, like I said, like everywhere I look there's Rick and Morty socks, Rick and Morty board games, Rick and Morty jackets. Like I can't get over it.
I know. My kids were just doing a Rick and Morty puzzle. They're not allowed to watch it, but they can do a Rick and Morty puzzle.
It reminds me because when you started, I think the first way we all knew you was when you were on Roseanne, and you were brought in sort of famously as second Becky, like one of the biggest shows of the '90s. You replaced the original actress who played the daughter Becky until the original Becky came back again. But from what I understand, you were in high school in Canada,
Mhm.
and then you got that gig,
Yeah,
right?
it was crazy. I was 16 when I auditioned, and I was living in Vancouver and working on a couple things that were filming up here, but really hadn't done anything. I hadn't done very much, and got this audition and put myself on tape, and I think we even like mailed a VHS tape, you know, down to the States. And they called and said, we're going to fly you down for an audition. And there were 7 of us, and all the others were like 21 and living in LA actresses. And all of us were doing this scene with Glenn Quinn, who played Mark, Becky's husband. And the whole scene was like making out. Sort of, you're making out with him and you're like, you know, get a job at the gas station. Like, baby, come here. I'm like, get a job at the gas station. Baby, come here. That was the scene. I thought, like, here's this 24-year-old handsome Irish actor. How am I going to remember one line? And they said, we'll let you know within a week. And then a week later, they called back and said, okay, come back tomorrow and do a scene with Roseanne. And it was like on the infamous couch on the set. And they were calling out, you know, camera numbers and having a laugh track and seeing if you could kind of adjust to those elements. And then they called and said, you got it. And I remember going to a party that night and telling a couple people, and it just sounded so crazy. It sounded crazy.
Well, yeah, it sounded
And
crazy that you were in high school and you were telling people, "Hey, I'm going to be on the #1 sitcom in the world." They would have been right to
yeah,
be
taking
like,
over.
"No, you're not."
You're not like taking over for someone else. Like they're
Yeah.
going to not have, like, it just sounded insane.
Right.
And we'd already
It's like,
had like in grade 7, we'd already had like someone like lied about being on the mini pops. Remember the
yeah.
mini pops, which were so amazing?
No, I don't. I don't know the mini
It was
pop.
it was like a Canadian band. It was like a Canadian kids, and you would like, you know, they would sing covers and they would dress in these cool 80s clothes and they were amazing. And someone in our school said they were going to be in the mini pops and it wasn't true. So all of a sudden I felt this feeling of like, I'm lying about being in the mini pops. And then, so it kind of spreads around our school pretty quick. And then they called me back on Monday morning and they said, we're having cold feet about replacing Becky. So we don't know if we're going to do it. We'll pick you if we do it, but we're going to put you on hold for 4 months. And we're going to tell you in September. I just thought, oh my God, this is definitely going to be a mini pop situation.
Yeah, right. You're going to have to go back to all of them and go, no, they changed their mind. Like, oh, yeah, Sarah, sure they did
Yeah.
change their mind.
Totally.
And then you find out.
Yeah. And then they were like, no, we're doing it. So it was my grade 12 year. And I would go back and forth because they would shoot 2 or 3 weeks on, 1 week off. So we would shoot Monday to Thursday. I would get on a plane first thing Friday morning and be at school in Canada on Friday afternoon, and then fly back Sunday night or stay home for a week if we had a week off, and kind of commuted back and forth.
I'm really interested in people like you who have an untraditional first big gig. Like I was talking to Linda Cardellini the other day, who played Lindsay on Freaks and Geeks, right? And you know, so there you go. Her big break is this show that's considered to be the greatest show of all time, and then gets canceled after one season. And I said, you know, what does that do for you for the rest of your career? And similarly for you, your first gig is to replace a beloved actor in a show that is the #1 show, and it was controversial when it happened, and people couldn't believe that it was happening. And then I wonder if that taught you anything in your career going forward, whether it hardened you or heartened you. Do you think it did something to you?
I think both of those things. I think, you know, I mean, because Lacey was Becky from seasons 1 to 5. I was 6 and 7. She came back for the beginning of 8, and then I came back for the rest of 8 and for 9. And so it was definitely, you know, as a kid, it's, you know, it's confusing and hard when they brought her back, and then they called me and said, okay, now will you come back? And so that piece, I think, was the challenging part of it for sure. And the other piece that was challenging was just going from complete obscurity to going on the #1 show. And then you're at that age where you're going to college and you kind of want to blend. And all of a sudden that piece of it was hard. But the incredible part was the obvious, unbelievable gift of working with John Goodman and Laurie Metcalf and Roseanne and Sarah Gilbert and Johnny Galecki and Sandra Bernhardt. And I mean, it was crazy. It was like stepping into having not really worked that much to working with these top, unbelievably talented comedians and just watching them work and what they would do with a script from a Monday morning table read till a Thursday night tape night. It was such a huge learning experience and so interesting. And obviously opened so many doors for me. I mean, I was like my my entire time on Scrubs, my nickname was Second Becky. They'd be like, "Can we get Second Becky to set, please?" So it definitely was
Really?
a piece
Really?
of my
Oh,
identity.
good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah,
Well,
for many years.
but then Scrubs happens, right? You play Elliot on Scrubs. Scrubs again sort of put into that league of, I mean, that kind of hushed tones of best shows, and unbelievably. By the way, I'm noticing a bit of a trend with you in like weird fan bases. Like Scrubs has like a crazy fan base, and Rick and Morty has a crazy fan base. Something going on.
And Roseanne had a crazy fan base. Yeah, I was not really lucky. I don't know.
I don't know. But
But
now, like now there's a podcast looking back on the series. There's a cast reunion special happening in a couple of weeks. Have you given any thought to why Scrubs, while a lot of shows that were on at the same time were popular, but we don't really talk about them anymore? Have you given any thought to why that show has sort of remained in our consciousness?
I think, at the time, I feel like when it came out, it was doing something really different in the format of the show and in the way they were shooting it. And I think that, what one of my favorite things about I remember reading the pilot for the first time and feeling like, God, I want to be a part of this so badly, um, is that the writing was really smart and irreverent, but it also had so much heart. Like they always found a way to just kind of get you, right, with um with the storylines and get you emotionally invested. And I think maybe that's what has stood the test of time. Um, I remember like reading the pilot for the first time, and my best friend and I just moved to LA and sublet this little apartment, and we didn't know anybody, and we never had plans. And we had plans that night, and we were supposed to go to this concert, and I'm such a, like, if I get an audition, like I'll work on it from the second I get it to the second. And I was like, I'm not canceling my plans. I'm going to go. So I remember getting home from the concert and opening this package in front of my door with this script and reading it. It was like midnight, and my audition was at 9 a.m. And I remember just going, oh no, oh shit, this is so good. This is so good. This is so good. And I have no time to prepare. And, but just that feeling I had when I read that pilot, I couldn't believe it. I just loved it so much.
It's funny you mentioned that they had the heart in it. I remember talking to Rainn Wilson, who played Dwight on The Office, and I asked him a similar question. I said, "What is it about this show that went off the air 10 years ago, but everyone's still talking about it? It's still like this huge show?" And he said, "It's because it had comedy and it had heart." And he said, "I don't really know why more people didn't realize that, and I don't really know why more comedies don't have heart in them. It's such proven to work, you know."
Yeah, yeah, because then you get people invested. They get invested in the characters. They get invested in the show.
Yeah, even Rick and
And I
Morty,
think,
there's there in that, it's like a weird, funny show, but it has a lot of heart in it.
yeah, totally, it totally does. And I think that one catches you off guard too, because I don't think you expect it going in, and then it totally gets you. I think the other thing with Scrubs, and one of the cool things for us as a cast, and for Bill as the creator of the show, was the medical community's response to the show. And that was one of our favorite parts, was just how much they embraced it. And that's been kind of neat now at this time, hearing from them through social media. That's been really cool.
Does it give you a greater empathy with what they're dealing with right now?
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine it. I mean, my little sister is a doctor for her first time this year, so
Wow.
what a way to walk into the medical profession, not what you expect, right? To walk into a full blown pandemic. She's doing great. She did an ER rotation, and now she's doing a pediatrics one. But we're banging our pots and pans every night like crazy for her and for all of the doctors. It's quite staggering, I think, what they're all being called to do. Um, and yeah, we've broken a few measuring cups, not judging well what will bang well against another pot. So yes, we've been maybe too overzealous with our pots and pans bagging at 7 o'clock every night.
How's she doing? She doing good?
Yeah, she is. She's doing really well. She's doing really well.
Well, thank her for us.
I will. Yeah, we don't stop thinking about her.
Just one last thing before we go. I think about what a standstill the industry is in, and it's like animated shows are sort of this oasis that can still operate while the rest of the industry has to stop. Do you think that animated shows like Rick and Morty are going to have to play a bigger presence on television going forward because of this pandemic?
That's so interesting you say that. I actually absolutely do. I think that, certainly right now it seems like, uh, and from what I've heard, is more and more animation is being created right now for that reason, because you can, from your home record um, and I've read a bunch of articles about, the return to sets, and I've talked to some friends who are, going through that. I have a friend in Australia whose boyfriend went back to work on a set. I've been reading about them trying it, in Iceland and other parts, and it's sets are such close quarters, so it's such a challenging thing, right? But they're, trying to come up with a bunch of creative solutions. So hopefully that will, eventually happen too. But I think, yeah, for right now, for sure, there's so much animation happening.
It's been a joy to talk
Lots
to
of people. You too. You too.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Lots of people around the world. There's usually lots of people. You can just picture people all over now, like trying to, like, with tape and weird blankets and bunk beds and duvets and in their cars and in their closets, trying to figure it out.
Yes, they're going to replace me with like a South Park version of me very, very shortly. They're going to replace me with like me, but like sort of cardboard. Oh, we're saving so much money. He just hangs out in his duvet all the time. It's great. Sarah, thank you so much.
Up in your Afghan from your grandma.
Nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you. Thanks so much for having me.